I would like to invite Drs. Ruwan and Niresh now. I think you have some slides. You could kindly share your screen and please start with your presentation. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Tara. That was a very interesting news, a lot of interesting news from our secretary, Mr. Anuradisanaka, who unfortunately is taking up another post, but he is going to be involved with education, thankfully. Yes, so Dr. Ruwan Dias and I have been doing some studies on the international aspect, among other aspects. And so I'm very glad to hear from Mr. Anuradisanaka about the Horana Zone for International Universities. That's very good news indeed. Let me share the slides that we have prepared. Okay, there we go. Right. So looking at the international aspect, globally, tertiary education or university education is one of the most lucrative and fast-growing industries in the world. It's about $1.9 trillion turnover annually. To show you the amount of growth, in 1998, there were 89 million university students globally enrolled. And by 2017, there were 200 million. So this is very fast growing indeed. And our governments, many governments over the past 25, 30 years have recognized this and tried to steer the country towards a knowledge hub. I think during Dr. Tara's time also that was mooted. And then of course the Mahinda Chintana document has Sri Lanka to become a knowledge hub as one of its 5 pillars. So that's quite a lot of emphasis on the country looking at international education. So the good news is that we in South Asia are in one of the fastest growing regions for university education. Other regions are the Middle East, which is right next door, and of course Latin America and Africa, which are a bit further away and are not relevant. Let me go to the next slide. So we're going to talk about the trends in world rankings and why world rankings are important, and how Asian universities are doing very well and moving into the top 200 and the top 100. And then my colleague, Dr. Ruwan Dias, will be talking about the nitty-gritty of how to improve the rankings of Sri Lankan universities. And he will be taking as an example the University of Malaya, which has done very well in the rankings over the last decade or so. So now, why are rankings important? Well, there are a lot of diverse opinions as to the quality of rankings. But the fact is that when you are marketing a product, and this is what it is, university education has become a product, a global product, and you need to market it, and you need to have some publicity, and you need to show your standards. That's the way you can attract international students. These 3 main rankings are widely used. There are other rankings as well, but these 3, the QS and the Times Higher Education and the ARWU. So these rankings are used quite frequently, and they are used by foreign universities which are marketing in Colombo. when you look at the Sunday education classifieds, you see universities saying we are top 100 or we are top 50 UK university, something like that. So because that's the way you sort of market yourself. Now, getting back to how lucrative this can be, and the reason I'm focusing on that, how lucrative it is that education costs money, and the state can't always provide. So, although Mr. Anuradha has certainly tried, yes. So, at the moment, in the United States, there are over 1 million foreign university students. That's, of course, the largest market, but that just shows you how many foreign students are willing to travel a long way to get this type of education. So, and it is such a big industry that it practically subsidizes the American students in those universities and subsidizes research, brings in a lot of money. In fact, recently, when I think last month, President Donald Trump tried to evict the foreign students in the US who are, unfortunately, due to COVID, many of those universities are not conducting physical classes and they're doing online classes. And when this policy was announced by the White House, both Harvard and MIT within a week filed action in court to prevent it on the grounds that they themselves would lose out financially in a huge way if all their foreign students are sent home. And of course, very fortunately, the White House dropped that idea. And I think Harvard and MIT had made a very strong case as to why that should not be done. Right. So actually, when you look at the global industry, universities can be and should be revenue centers rather than cost centers. So they can earn a lot of revenue, for the country, which is what the successive Sri Lankan governments have recognized, and also thankfully the present government as well, as Mr. Anuradha pointed out, with the foreigner zone. So that's all wonderful news. Now, when you look at see here. Okay, let's go to the next slide. So QS rankings, when you look at, now by looking at QS rankings, we could look at the other ones as well, but we don't have time. Let's look at QS. You see, of course, in the top 100, there's quite a few US and UK universities, and then you have other countries. Now, the interesting thing here is that there are 6 Asian countries which are represented here. That's mainland China, South Korea, Hong Kong, Singapore, Malaysia, and Taiwan. So that's very interesting. And let's look at the next slide. Sorry, there we go. So when you look at the number of Asian universities in the top 100, look at, back in 2004, there were only 14, and then it sort of stagnated for a few years there. And take a look at where we are now. I mean, that where 26 universities of the top 100 are Asian. So this is very good news for countries like Sri Lanka, because what it shows is that Asian universities as a whole have the capability to get up there into the top 100. And that's where, once you get into the top 100 or even the top 200, suddenly, your marketability increases tremendously. So as long as your country doesn't have universities in that range, it's more difficult to market not just those universities, but also the country as a whole, because you need to show that your own education system, your own universities are of a high caliber. So now let's look at, okay, from each Asian country, you can see China in 2004, they had only 2 universities which were in the top 100. And today they have 6. And then Hong Kong had 3 in 2004, and today they have 5. India had 1, and then in 2005 they had 2, but those 2 have dropped out of the top 100. So that shows you that as universities move in to the top 100, it's just as easy to fall out. Japan is very consistent, around the 4 or 5 university mark. South Korea, tremendous improvement. They've gone from 0 top 100 universities in 2004 up to 5 in the present year. Malaysia, interestingly, they had 1 university in the top 100 in 2004, and it dropped out. And for about a decade, it was out, and now it's come back in. And my colleague, Dr. Ruwan Dias, will be talking about that quite a bit. Singapore, very consistent. They have 2 universities which are very high up there, including the National University of Singapore, which is usually in the top 10 or just outside the top 10. And Taiwan has 1 university now. Okay, so that's quite a few. 26 out of the top 100 are Asian. We have actually tracked each university and how they have either done better over the years or gone down. And the East Asian universities certainly have improved, whereas the Indian ones have not done so well. Right. So you will see there at the bottom, Indian Institutes of Technology and Indian Institute of Management have dropped out. Right. So now I will hand over to Dr. Ruwan Dias, my colleague, who's speaking from Kuala Lumpur, and he will go into a bit more nitty-gritty, and I'll add a few comments as he goes along. Ruwan?
Yeah, thank you, Niresh. So thanks for having me. There's a couple of things I want to highlight on this slide. So if you look at it, the previous slide, Singapore, right? So Singapore, they scored the overall QS because this example is based on the QS ranking. So I'm touch upon the QS, right? So there are criteria and etc. So if you closely look at the Singapore, for instance, right? So they are very standard, and I mean they're consistent, right? Then the 11, the ranking is 11. 11 is 91 point. The overall score 91.5. So then their reputation, academic reputation out of 100, 99.7. And even if you look at it, the Japanese universities, they are consistent, and one of the university from China, the Fudan, they are not even in the 100 starting. I mean, this ranking starting 2004, there was 195. Then 2020, they are top 50. So that's the interesting one. Then again, if you look at it, the Nanyang University and the NUS, their average is above 90. Only 2 criteria, they are below 70s. It's one is the citations, and the other one is the international students. So that hits to 72.9 and the 71.4. So this is something interesting to look at it. So move to the next slide. Yeah, so QS assessment criteria. Yeah, stay here. Yeah. So back to this QS assessment criteria. So if you look at it, the academic reputation here, 30%. But recent past, it's changed to, I mean, 2 months back, they changed it to 40%. It's no longer exists the 30%. So, and the employer reputation now is 20. That's been until 2020. Ranking assessment is 20. Now it's dropped to 10%. Then the faculty ratio faculty ratio has become a 20%. So what I'm trying to say here, it's always changing the statistics here. So somebody's have to monitor this. Somebody's have to work for it. So what's going on in the ranking? And if you look at it closely in Malaysia, in the past, they were disappeared in 2007 and 2008. That 2 years, they were not in the 200 even. Their ranking was 1,500 above, because due to the economy crisis. So what I'm trying to say, there is any university is not adapt to this criteria. It takes some time to back in the game. So it's a business. So back to the criteria, if you look at it closely, so what we are looking at, example like the citation per paper, right? Citation per paper is 10% here. So University of Peradeniya, they scored 82 for the international research networking, 82, and 54 point. Let me have a look on it. Yeah, 54.4, if I'm not mistaken. They score for the citation paper per faculty. So this is important thing to monitor. So how many publications you can push it forward, right? So move to the next slide, please. So back to the academic standard and reputations. So if you look at it, the academic standard and reputation is based on the survey. They have an academic survey. They carry out the academic survey. So 2011, not 2011, I would say that was the employer reputations. Employer reputation back to the 2011, the survey responses are 17,000. And 2021, employers' reputation is back to 50,000. So what they're trying to do, they're trying to scrutinize and weight to eliminate those bias. Because if you look at it, the top 10 universities are coming from US and the UK. So somebody can argue that, those academics can argue that there is no way we're going to jump into top 10. But those ranking, they also aware that. So they increase the weight, and they increase the survey responses to 50,000 to balance it. And back to the earlier, the academic survey. So academic survey, how they carry out by 100,000 individuals. So you can get those informations on the QS intelligence unit. So from there, there's a lot of information there. You can find out how they carry out this exercise. So then another thing is that, so back to the career aspect of graduates. So career aspect of graduates, they are looking at Fortune 500. So Fortune 500 companies, how many CEOs are coming from those universities? Are they coming from the local universities like Colombo or Peradeniya, etc.? Or they are coming from the MIT, or they are coming from Chicago University? So it's very important So to maintain connect with the, I mean, universities have to always have to connect with the industry. So then back to the University of Malaya, I want to explain a little bit about the University of Malaya, how they engage these exercise. Back to graduate programs, for instance, they have the incubator programs. They very closely work with the industry. Then the research work, mainly the final year projects for the BSc students, master students, they work very closely with the industry. They take their labs, probably a couple of modules from the, let's say, for instance, like a HIS solution, like a healthcare information systems. So these kind of systems, they collaborate with the universities. They build the labs so students can hands-on, they can contribute, they can check their theories whether it's working fine, or just to apply and see, or they can enhance it, whatever in the theoretical stuff. So there are always collaborations with the industry. Then back to the recruitment and international staff, right? I want to share some statistics with the University of Malaya and I take it the University of Peradeniya to compare it. Capacity-wise, both universities are 17,000 students. Then the 30%, I mean, University of Malaya, 30% from undergraduates and 70% from postgraduates. Sorry, other way around. 30% from the postgraduates, 70% from the undergraduates. But University of Peradeniya, 39% postgraduates, and remaining is undergraduates. But this is the interesting thing.
Dr. Ruwan, you have gone exceeding both your times together. So can you please speed up? We have to hand over to Dr. Viranja.
Sure. So back to that, I just want to highlight that both universities are same, and the international students, both universities, we look at it, Peradeniya, we have only 130, but University Malaya, they have 3,000 number of students, and the international staff, we have only 9, and they have more than 650. So it's an international collaboration they're always looking at. So next slide. Yeah, over to you, Niresh.
Yes, one of the issues with citations and Sri Lankan universities is we need to clamp down on the amount of academic fraud, because if you have a lot of academic fraud in the universities, what's going to happen is soon as you put your dissertations and theses and so on online, you're going to get caught out, and that is going to ruin the reputation of the universities. So this is, we did a little survey on HitAd, and we found 11 instances of open advertising for academic fraud. Okay, you can get a dissertation done for 1,500 rupees. I mean, it's quite ridiculous. And this is where our educational authorities need to do some cracking down with the, talk to the CID, because it's punishable under the penal code, because this comes under cheating. So there you see education in the HitAd, and you can see even PhD, at the top bottom right hand corner, people are talking about PhD work as well. So this is quite ridiculous. What in the world? It's beyond me how any university can accept that kind of shoddy work, because these are repeated assignments and dissertations and so on. Nobody is going to write a dissertation for 1,500. He's simply going to tell the same dissertation to 100 different students. So before we put all those online to be cited, we need to make sure these things are, taken taken down. Okay. The other thing is, in the COVID era, we've seen a lot of universities strengthening their distance learning, including Sri Lankan ones have been looking at online and distance learning. So that's one part, which again has to be strengthened. And let us leave you with this. Ruwan and I are both lecturers and academics, but when it comes to moving up the rankings, this is not something which can be left to academics and lecturers and professors. It has to be an integrated effort by entire universities and the entire UGC and the entire system. So you need to have some marketers who will drive this, who will plan it out, drive it, and make sure that there are targets set and that we can reach those targets, like the 10-year plan that Mr. Anmodisa Nayaka referred to. Okay, thank you very much, and we look forward to your questions.